Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Flex Zone All In Podcast. I am Flex Alexander.
I'm Buddy Lewis.
Hey, what's up, y'all? I'm Kennelia.
We are in the building. We got a lot of interesting stuff going on today. A whole lot of news, whole lot. I'd like to start with Brian Flores, coach of the Miami Dolphins, who was fired by the Miami Dolphins after getting them 2 successful seasons. Successful in the sense of, for Miami, because they were struggling. I mean,
he had winning record.
Yeah, winning record. 1 game away from the playoffs. Just did an amazing job. Players loved him. He's fired. He said, I ain't going for it. I'm tired of this. There is this Jim Crow in football, which I think is a note that he's saying that we all have kind of felt that,
a la Kaepernick.
Yeah, out of all the teams in the NFL, there's one black head coach, and it's Mike Tomlin for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And there has to be more done. The guy the Giants hired, I never even heard of him.
Well, of course.
Ever. Like
Dobble, but he was actually the offensive coordinator for Buffalo. But he was in demand. But you're right, Flex. There are other African American coaches that were looked over, passed over, and were fired this year.
Yes.
And so there were no replacements of any of those coaches. Eric Bieniemy, my frat brother, Bruce, should be a head coach. Should be a head coach. But Nagy did such a terrible job in Chicago, people are scared to pick from the Kansas City tree again, which I think is foul and disingenuous and funky for my frat brother out there in KC. It don't make no sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, they fired a whole bunch of coaches, man.
It's a bunch of great coaches out there. You got Lovie Smith.
They got Lovie still out there.
It's a bunch of great coaches.
They didn't hire the guy in Chicago, Caldwell.
Right, yeah.
They didn't hire, they had fired Hugh Jackson. There are a whole bunch of black coaches out here. And it seems like our causacoid friends continue to be hired over and over and over again when they're bums. Some of these guys are bums.
And listen, I struggle as a Dallas Cowboy fan. What is our offensive coordinator name? Young guy.
Mullen, not Millen. Mill, not Mill. I know you're talking about.
So, I can't remember right now because I'm so pissed off. But he's only 2 years in,
right?
3 years in, 2 years in, and they're like, "Oh, he's an offensive genius." And you got your frat brother,
Eric Bieniemy,
is doing a great job
in Kansas City. Got them to the play. I mean, they've been in the playoffs they've been in the championship game the last 4 years in a row.
Yeah. And that's off of his play calling.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so it is definitely an unbalanced scale. And I applaud. Listen, the brother said, I'm going to take the hit. He said, this is for future.
Right.
This is for the future generations, the future coaches, because he knows he's probably not going to, get a job after this.
Yeah, he's never going to coach in the NFL again.
Yeah, no, never again.
Probably never. But he might get a coach. He might be able to go to college and someplace else and coach. But here's the other thing, Flex, that's really, African American people make up like 65 to almost 70% of the league.
Yeah.
Why is it that only a lot of those players are starting to move into coaching? Why is it that they're not, why aren't they more acclimated and getting them ready and prepared to coach? It's like, it's still that same mentality as if brothers who played the game can't coach it. That's a bad thing. And man, here's the crazy thing about this whole situation with Brian Flores. Bill Belichick,
text
accidentally sent a text to a guy saying, "Oh man, I'm sorry. That's foul that Brian Flores got nixed or didn't get a job." He hadn't even interviewed with the Giants yet, and he had already been X'd out. They had already, and he was supposed to have an interview.
No. He did. He spent 4 days with Giant management. He spent 4 days, and that's the thing. He was pissed off. And in the text, he said, you know something I don't know, Coach? Like he spent 4 days.
Yeah.
And they that's what he's saying, that they basically did that because just the interview because of the Rooney Rule.
Right. They had
Yeah.
no intentions of hiring him, and it's really
John
kinda-
Elway, those guys, he said they came in an hour late. They were drunk from hanging out the night before. Like, he said the Dolphins owner offered $100,000 per game to tank the game.
And Hugh Jackson, who coached in Cleveland, said the exact same thing, that he has paperwork where they told him to tank the season.
Yeah.
You know? And I mean, how you an NFL coach and you tell people to tank the season?
Because think about who's running this. The people who are running these franchises, the owners, they don't play sports. They don't care.
Right.
They do not care. They care about building up the franchise, increasing the value of that, so
Right.
that they can continue to line their pockets. And this is my question. We know the NFL's been doing this.
Yeah.
They gonna be doing this.
Yeah.
They ain't gonna stop doing this.
Yeah.
How about the black coaches take a note from maybe Deion Sanders, Eddie George, and take their coaching talent somewhere else where they can have an impact, and then possibly circle back at a later date.
I mean, that's what going along with what Buddy said. But I think at some point somebody's got to fight and say,
I agree.
okay,
Yeah.
like why doesn't Byron Leftwich have
a job? They say he's supposed to be in with the Jaguars, but they're jerking him around.
Yeah, like what is the issue? Like there's always these hoops to jump. There's always these rings to go through when it comes to black coaches in the NFL. It's almost the same credence that they put on and say black quarterbacks aren't as good.
Right.
Black quarterbacks are athletic, but white quarterbacks are smart.
Well, no, they know that they can compete and they know they can do the job, but they know once you start to let people in, we're gonna take over. Think about it. Think about what black people do in every space. Right?
Every sport.
Black in space, sport, fashion, culture, hair, body type. What we do is we come in, we do our thing. We just naturally gonna do us. We are the culture. We start to sauce it up wherever sport. It don't matter. Quarterback coming in, Mike Vick running all around. He doing his thing.
Right.
The Mike Vick jersey was the top selling jersey. What that does is changes the narrative. Now everybody want to be like Mike Vick. So if you keep letting them in, guess what? Don't nobody care about Matt Stafford no more. we want this.
Yeah.
So in order to keep that narrative, you can't let no more of them in. You can't let no more black coaches in, because once we in there, we gonna be in there.
Yeah, and it's true. I
make a good point.
I think they're actually gonna have the first African American owner, the billionaire,
right?
The brother who donated all that money to the
Robert Johnson.
Robert something.
Yeah. I forget his name. He at Morehouse. He paid for a whole class of people to go to. He paid all their tuition.
Right. So now looks like he's going to be an owner, and you go and you look at the NFL again. We know it's comprised of I would say probably 75% black players. And we make the culture, man. Like there needs to be a black head coach. It's ridiculous. And it's ridiculous that you have to have a rule called the Rooney Rule just to be a black coach in the NFL. You know what I mean? And just think if Mike Tomlin wasn't there or if he didn't win,
right,
there would be none. I mean, listen, I'm looking at coaches, players. I'll go back to the Raiders with Rich Gannon. He played 8 years past the time he should have been playing.
Right.
There's no reason he should have had a job. And that's back when it was tough for black quarterbacks to get a job. And then you go from him and you look at Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan, it's time to sit down.
Right.
With the Falcons. It's time to sit down. It's time. And you have these quarterbacks, again, like Kennelia said, who make an impact, who jerseys sell out, who people come to see. And it just, I don't know, it pisses me off, man. And the whole Kaepernick thing, we talk about that, but I applaud Brian Flores because he said, I'm going to be the martyr. I'm going to be the Malcolm X. I know that I'm going to get killed, but I'm going to go out here and I'm going to deliver
the truth.
Message. Yeah.
You got to speak truth to power, man.
That's what I want us to do, though, because even if you work at like a 9 to 5, right? After the diversity conversations and somebody sues and we put policies into place, that first person, black person come in the door, they're the diversity hire. They're not necessarily given the best circumstances to work with.
Right.
But we all know the quote: if doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results is insanity.
Mm-hmm.
At what point are we going to say to the NFL or switch us as the consumer our perspective so that it can actually affect bottom line and change?
Yeah.
Because until you hit them pockets, they don't care.
Yeah, they don't care. And it was proven, what they did. It was proven that it was a freeze out for Kaepernick, and he was blackballed. That was proven. And I thought at that point there was going to be a bottom line that affected, because so many people were so upset, and it was the national anthem, it was this and that. So much so that even after this, he's on the ESPN morning show, and for the Super Bowl, guess who's singing Lift Every Voice and Sing? Mary, Mary. And nothing against them. Those are my sisters. But it's almost the same playbook. Oh, my God. Okay. Okay, now, when was the last time you ever heard Lift Every Voice and Sing at the Super Bowl?
Remember they did that and people got mad because they were like, why are they singing this? What is this song? And then people were like on Twitter and social media saying, that's the Black National Anthem. And then the bigots got mad and were like, what do you mean there's a Black National Anthem?
There's only one that I know.
What do you mean? When did this come about? You guys made up this song? Yeah, 100 years ago. Y'all didn't know we had this? We're singing this for 100 years? Yeah. They did not even know we had it. They were angry.
Aside from picking the cotton, we created a song.
We was writing songs.
We were tired of it. Yeah.
What song is this?
Swing low.
That's what they're used to. They're like, could you give us a Paul Robeson voice? Can you do that, please? And sing Swing Low. But yeah, kudos, man, to Brian Flores. And I just really hope something comes from it, because we, at some point we have to change. Speaking of change, someone deposited a $33,000 cashier's check into a B of A, and the B of A closed down.
What?
And his money is gone. Yeah.
What?
Yes.
Wait a minute, Flex. Hold on, Flex.
California man deposits $33K check in the Bank of America account, never sees it again as the branch closes.
So it wasn't ever deposited then. They didn't put it through. Because once you put it into the Bank of America system, that's like me. If I go to the branch by my house and deposit some money, but then I go to the branch across the city and check my bank account, the amount shows up.
Yeah.
It don't matter the branch.
Right.
So they didn't even deposit the check. The employees was like, it's in here with the fake typing. Submit. And then they left.
Oh, dang.
This happened in Oakland, California. Brian Leonard he deposited it and it disappeared. He said, nobody said we'll find out where the money is. We'll make good to you. We'll take care of it. He said nobody said anything. Just
hold on. Okay, so now my question is, Mr. Leonard.
Yeah.
My asking, and I do mean poor, literally. What is his recourse now? Because he has to I put the check in the bank. Would his company, whoever gave him the check, is like, I'm not writing another one.
Yeah, and it's a cashier's check.
They're going to have to go after the employees. Brian going to have to personally do legal action against the people that handled the check then. Because for me, if I give you some money, you run off with it, I'm coming for you. So Mr. Jones and Mr. Stewart that was at the counter and they took the check, you got to pay up. Somebody got my money.
So that means the employees knew the branch was closing and stole my boy's check?
That's what it sounds like.
They knew it was closing. Either I don't think they stole the check. I think they knew it was closing, went through the procedure, or maybe they didn't know it was closing. Maybe they did business as usual, and then I don't know. But
you know when that thing runs in that little circle, when they put that check in that circle,
that thing,
you know when your job closing. I ain't never worked somewhere. It's when stuff closing down. They don't be like, oh, come into work at 9, and then at 6 they be like, oh, by the way, this your last minute on the job. You're gonna close.
Well, Flex, another transition off of that story to piggyback. Speaking of stealing folks' money, this brother and I didn't get his name, but this is genius, criminal, but just incredibly, I'm in love with this guy, right? He got $1 million selling Chuck E. Cheese tokens as Bitcoin.
I remember that.
I think this is the greatest
I remember that
scam known to man.
But that's how people get knifed up. Like,
I told Buddy, I said, you didn't hear about this before?
No, I didn't hear about, man.
That's how people get knifed up.
I think that is the greatest scam. I mean, I know I'm late coming to the game with this story, but that is so funny to me. I'm like, wait a minute. This is Bitcoin? Well, I ain't got a mouth on it.
So if that happened to you, right? You like, I heard Bitcoin was the move. Let me get 1,000 coins. Yeah, what would you do? If you went home and saw it was Chuck E.
But how did you not know that? That's the thing. How do you not know? How do you not look at it? It says right there. And he's like this.
But some people, that shows you what people are doing, investors. Everybody that's investing, they ain't got it all. When people be trying to give you advice like you should put your money in diversify, you don't even know Chuck E. Cheese was on your thing. It just speaks to me that people really don't know what they be doing or they be talking about.
Listen, that is almost as good as the pandemic. What do you call it? Sou-sus.
The who?
The pandemic sou-sus.
The sou-sus.
Remember the sou-sus?
Oh, yeah.
The sou-sus are...
It's a pyramid scheme.
It's an ancient African...
Oh, I think I understand.
Where you get somebody, you bring two people, and they bring two people. But this actually goes to, the Asian community. A lot of, I have a couple of Korean friends that this is what they do. They'll have like 12 families. They'll come live in one apartment, and for a year, each of the family, they'll take money and they'll give it to one family for that year until they move out and they start their life.
And then that family that they help has to do the same thing for another family.
And they do it all the way down. But black folks, we flipped the sou-sou. It was, let me tell you something. And I jumped in it, y'all. Let me just say something. And 2 of them worked out. But the other 7
See, that's the thing. Somebody invited me in one, and you gotta trust the person texting you about it. Because if you get a text from somebody and they ain't got a damn thing, I ain't trusting you to go in no pyramid scheme. What's next? Herbalife?
It's so brilliant, though. It's brilliant in the fact that when it works, it works. If we just keep it simple and let it do what it do, instead, you always got somebody just trying to do something different
and scam the system.
And you scam the system. And I'm
getting my money out.
Yeah. People bring in people. They started pushing people ahead that they knew, putting them further up, putting the other people back. People, you don't understand. I sat on Zooms. I watched people cuss people out. I had about 20.
If I see you,
I had 29 sou-sou Telegram groups. My alert was going off, ding, ding, ding. I'm like, okay, this is enough.
Oh my God!
But it's so brilliant though, because this is, comes from us again, and something else that comes from us. In the ancient land, that's what we did. But you still do, but it just could have been so great, man. People have lost friends. People don't speak no more because of I put my 500 and I ain't never they went from 500. There was 1,000. There was
1,200.
There was when it was 10,000, and it was so crazy. And that's why Cash App changed their law. They started kicking people out.
Yep, kicking. And so did
who was it?
Not Venmo.
Not Venmo.
The other one.
PayPal.
Yeah, they kicked. It was And what was the system they were on? It was like WhatsApp or something. Kicked a lot of they were like, this is all these scams.
Oh yeah, man.
Listen, because scamming went through the roof during the pandemic.
During the
People had the PPE
But that wasn't
scam,
that
the
wasn't a
EDD
scam though. The
Susu.
Susu wasn't a scam.
It wasn't a
worked.
scam, but
No.
once somebody get in there scamming, it turned into a scam, man.
No, I know.
It turned into a scam.
It was. I just like, man, this is. I was like, because people were hurting at that time, and I'm personally seeing people I know that were really like going through it, and it like this was some people's like food money. You know what I mean? And it just because I people use the term pyramid scam, like like
it was different.
I've been in multi-level marketing things, and I'm like the biggest. If you want to talk about a pyramid scam, the biggest one of all is having a 9-to-5 job. Because if you really, because no matter what, you at the bottom, everybody else at the top
making money.
You working to make the top guy or woman, more money, and it filters down. It's supposed to filter down, but I just saw it. I mean, folks had their kids in it. Like it was,
man, the susu was the
God.
bomb,
it
bro.
It was the bomb. But again, look at the creativity. We go back to that. Look at the creativity. We just got it flowing. We like, okay, everything's shut down. We gonna make this money happen.
Oh my God!
It comes down to discernment. Because again, some of them people reaching out for the sou-sou. Is it the sou-sou?
Yeah.
You know good and well you wasn't supposed to get in that sou-sou. You knew as soon as you saw the person texting you and that person asked you to get in. Oh no, I can't do that.
No, thankfully, I didn't have any sketchy people asking. I had good people asking. The ones that killed me were and it's nothing at all against any type of religion or whatever. It was the super spiritual sou-sus. It was like, brothers and sisters, before we put in our money, we're gonna just pray. Father God, we know right now that this is a need that's being met. And I mean, it was, and it was taking money, and people were just left out. It was the greatest and the worst thing of 2020.
Man, the sou-sou. That was some grifting.
Yeah, it was something else, man. On another subject, which you definitely don't want to stay on long, but Whoopi Goldberg was suspended from The View for 2 weeks because of comments she made. I'm not going to speak on it, but I guess, it wasn't explained in the best way, and some comments were made, and now she's suspended for 2 weeks. The Jewish community definitely let it be known, like, hey, no, that's not correct. So what this ties, and I bring that up to tie into, again, if we're talking about Constitution, like, where are we? And we're not having free speech, correct or incorrect. You know what I mean? Being able to speak, and if someone has to say, hey, no, it's, this, but again, even with comedy and whatever, free speech and right to bear arms and all these things, all the things that, our forefathers, fought for and said, we want to have these things to protect us. And now they're not protecting. And Joe Rogan is going through it with his podcast. And I just hate, the thing I hate about what he's going through is that they always have to use the word misinformation. And it's like, listen, don't be so quick to say misinformation. Just let's say, hey, this is the report I got, or this doctor said this, or this doctor said that, because he broke something down that was really, I thought was really poignant. He said, listen, if this was 6 months ago and I said, hey, guys, masks don't work, or if I said, hey, don't get, the vaccine, or whatever the case may be, it would be, it would be hell-bent. But 6 months later, when you have the CDC and you have, doctors saying like, A, B, C, or D, now it's okay. But, he got in hot water for saying some things. And I think what he said, I like what he said. He said, hey, instead of having, one type of doctor on, I'm going to have the other side on. So it can be balanced. You know what I mean?
And look, I think it's two parts of that, right? One, for free speech, I think we have to ask ourselves when we want to live in that space, are people sticking up for free speech because they actually want to share their thoughts and ideas, or are they using that term as a protection to be able to say hurtful things without any repercussions? Right? Because a lot of times people will say, well, it's my free speech, but then the stuff they said right before that, it'd be some bullshit. Like it'd be hurtful to somebody, harmful, and they know it.
Right.
I think in regards to Joe, again, he apologized, but I think the thing that is backing Joe into a corner in this conversation is so magnified because outside of the quote misinformation, he has said and done problematic things outside of that. Like I was on social media and people, now people start to dig through and comb through. Right. There was a video floating around with a minute and a couple second loop of him saying the N-word. Just saying in different conversations, laughing, what different contexts is. Right. There's different moments with him that has magnified this, that is making it more than it is. Because it's to say, we having this conversation about misinformation with Joe. But you also be saying this, and you also do this, you also talk about like this. So it's the totality of that has caused him to.
It's the what?
The totality of that has caused him to be in this space right now. Well, it ain't just the misinformation; it's who he is.
Right. I'm sorry. And to add to that, what a lot of artists do, some artists started pulling their music because of that, because of misinformation, but. NDRE said something super dope. She was like, listen, it ain't even about that for me. Yeah, that could be a problem. I understand that medically and stuff like that for people. My problem is this man got $100 million, yet we have to get 5 million streams to make $2.
Right.
That's the problem.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I think that's all just across the board with streaming. Like the only way to make, you have to literally make 3 to 4 million streams before you make $100.
Right. And I think that's the one thing also that's affecting this whole situation with Joe Rogan is artists are now pulling their music and they're hitting Spotify in the bottom line because they can't keep paying Joe Rogan the money they're paying him and the artists whose music that sells on their platform are leaving.
Right.
It's and they're saying I'm leaving because of this, and it might just be the Joe Rogan speech misinformation that they're putting on it, but it could also be okay, man, you know what? I'm not gonna keep making this fool money. Right. Why am I gonna keep giving to Spotify when I'm not making no money?
Right.
And you got somebody on here who I disagree with or is making comments that are disingenuous and are going to keep my fans from listening. Because what'll end up happening is people will say, I don't want to support Joe Rogan's BS, so I'm not going to go on Spotify. So now that affects everybody who has music on Spotify.
Yeah.
And so once it becomes a bottom line, and like you going back to your comment earlier, Kennelia, about what do people do to hit the NFL in the bottom line, what artists are doing now is hitting Spotify in the bottom line and going, hey man, you know what? I'll take my music off. I can put my music elsewhere.
Yeah. Because you got so many, SoundCloud, you've got, DistroKid that puts, I'm watching my son and my great nephew, they do this like, you can create music and you can go through DistroKid and they literally can put it on any and every platform and watch your monetization and break it down for you and you get paid. Like it is it's amazing. Like it's amazing.
And that's why a lot of these old businesses and old guard folk are just they're angry and bitter, and you're like, "What's wrong with these? Why are these white folks so angry? What are they angry about?" Well, they're finding out you aren't needed.
And this is my question:
your little bullshit is not important anymore. We can make money on discotheque.
Take the misinformation out of it, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Is this basically about people of a certain demographic never been told that they can and can't say something? Because to me, that's what it sounds like, right? It's just that it's the same way some people didn't want to wear masks, not because they didn't think they worked. They didn't like you telling them to wear a mask.
Right.
You can't tell me what to do.
Yeah.
Okay. So is this all of this about, because it's a certain type of person that this is affecting, the Joe Rogans per se.
Yeah.
To me, it sounds like he just want to be able to say what he want to say without consequence. And now that somebody is holding him, putting the fire under his feet, now it's like, oh shit. And it's a thing. Does that make sense?
Right.
No, it does. And I think, again, I think it definitely is some of that. But I do think at some point where, and I definitely, want to get into that conversation or, anti this, pro that. But in general, I think that if one side, whether it's medical science, whatever, can give their opinion or their professional opinion or their scientific, whatever, I think there should be able to be someone who can give theirs, especially if they've experienced something, and say, hey, I'm not saying this for everybody. I'm just saying this is what I did. And I know that this works. You on your own, talk to your physician or whatever, you know what I'm saying? And do that, as opposed to, if you just saying like, yeah, this is how it is, and this is the only thing that works, and, to hell with that. That's different. But I think that, because that's like me having an experience and saying, yo, this worked for me this way, and boom, I was fine. And I think you should, take your doctor's advice. I think you should listen to the scientist. You should listen to this doctor, but be able to listen to both and come to your own conclusion. That's
so where do we draw the line, though? Because with that, everybody should be able to share their thoughts, right?
No, I'm saying with someone in that position, not just obviously the everyday person, but I'm only speaking on that because he's in that position.
Right. It's some responsibility.
Because there's more on the other side. They get to speak, their whatever their position is or their professional opinion, as opposed to the ones like him that they can't do that. There are more of them than there are him, if that makes sense.
But here's my thing.
The public
I to your point, Flex, you said that, we need to give, I guess, a voice to the people that have an alternative opinion to certain things. It's one thing to have an opinion, and try to say it's based in science, that my opinion is based on some fact or whatever. That because here's the thing. People use their own experiences and use things that they've done to go, this is a rational way to proceed. And sometimes that's like, yo, man, every time I'm with a girl, I pull out. I don't use condoms.
I don't want to imagine that.
And now I'm preaching the pull out method as scientific
and you
fact.
like it's 99% of the time it works.
It works for me.
But
it ain't even saying for me. They say it just works.
But it
goofy.
I proved it.
But it goes to the other side too. That's saying, well, do this, and it's definitely going to work. It works, and I hear what you're saying is a good point. It works the same way on both sides.
It does,
because you cannot say either way, one size fits all.
No, and it does, but then that means that both sides have to do the trial and error to be able to come to that hypothesis and that conclusion. Meaning, science is forever changing, right?
Right.
Science is forever changing. The research, studies, those are ongoing from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, from my experience, a lot of people on the other side of that, they not doing no experiments. A lot of the research, people are, and for a perfect example, now people will say, I've done my research, when they just watched a YouTube video where somebody has the same opinions as them, or they heard somebody on Facebook saying it, or they read a meme on Instagram. That's not doing your research. So I feel like if we do want to hold weight on both sides got to do the same type of due diligence.
Oh, yeah.
Versus just watching somebody's shitty YouTube clip.
But I don't think
that was circulating.
But I don't think that's, speaking of him, I don't think that's what he did. He had, and you could say they're doctors from the other side, but when you have a credible doctor like, Dr. Robert Malone, and you have another credible doctor like the other guy, I forget, they said some controversial things, but these are people who are in the throes of it, and there's 17 to 20,000 other physicians who think like them, but they're not. And again, I'm playing the advocate. I'm not, again, let's be sure, I'm not pro or anti. Okay, let's just make that clear. I think
you can't walk the middle of the street, Flex. Get on the side, pick a side. Pick a side, Flex.
I'm just saying that I just like to throw that out there that, there's nobody probably any more accredited than Dr. Robert Malone or Peter, I forget the other doctor, but if you're saying that their words fall on deaf ears with the other side and they're not credible and what they're speaking is, it's personal experience, then, that I think that's not fair to say, because you got, 2 out of the 20,000 who can't come forward. You got 2 who are saying, forget my license, forget whatever. I'm going to speak on the science that I know and that I've dealt with some of these doctors on the other side as well, who they've battled against and said, no, this is not right. They go back and forth, but you cannot ignore those guys, especially Robert Malone, who is probably one of the foremost experts out there and the creator of the mRNA.
Well, listen, I don't know Robert. I'm one of those people. I don't watch Joe Rogan. I don't consume certain things with people who get on my damn nerves. So I just don't. I don't do enough digging into like his episodes to be able to speak to that. But again, I will say this: once you on a platform, regardless who you are, what side you on, you do have a responsibility, because we are in a space now where people take your word as fact without researching or doing any due diligence on their own. Whether whatever you saying is completely true or completely false. So I just would like all of us, them included, just sit and own that space. Own it. Once you out here speaking to millions of listeners, because he got a huge following.
Yeah.
They taking your word as what it is. And if it's accurate, great. And if it's not, you gotta eat it. You gotta sit with it.
Well, see, that's the whole, that's the whole like Fox News debate. This starts to, you can't keep sending out propaganda and expect people not to believe the propaganda that you're putting out. If you keep doing it, if like the old saying is, if you keep saying the same, if you keep telling a lie, people will come to believe this is the truth. And so
even with experts,
bro. Not to. I'm just gonna say this, and I'm not saying this is what it is. Experts also said that back in the 1600s, that Africans were dumber because of the size of our brain and skulls.
They weren't experts,
but they said that at the time they were experts of their time.
They were supremacists.
That dude.
No, but of the time they were experts of their time.
Right.
So I'm just saying, people can be deemed experts of the time and not know what the hell they be talking about, but because they're experts of the time, it is now taken and deemed as true. Now, I'm not saying that's what those guys on Rogan, because I don't know. Right. I'm just saying people don't be knowing what they talking about.
And in fairness to you, I'm not saying, hey, propaganda. I'm not pushing that at all. I just always like to say, hey, whether it's experts about or not, like they're just as credentialed as
Fauci, I hear your point. I hear your point.
When one of them are the creator of
when you're trying to get the facts, there are, and this is the one thing interesting about science, because like I said, and I go back to this, I was a microbiology major there in school. So when you're trying to prove a hypothesis, whatever it is, there's a methodology that we all have to go through. And sometimes in science, what happens is people jump outside the standard protocol. And that's how scientific discoveries sometimes are made. People will take a different tact, or they're trying something. And I'm going to give you a prime example. And this is a bad example, but in the movie I Am Legend, Will Smith was trying everything on all them rats. He was trying everything. One of them eventually worked, but it took him. I mean, in the movie, there were thousands of rats and people. He went through hundreds of people to try and do this. So, and then he finally got one that worked. But that's what happens in science all the time. Some things are flukes. Like penicillin is a fluke.
Mm-hmm.
People don't understand penicillin is a fluke. I mean, they were trying to find out why the aristocrats and people on these ships weren't getting sick, but all the hands were healthy. Right. They find out they eat moldy oranges. And they're like, okay, it's the mold. And they test the mold. The mold is penicillin. Penicillin is mold. Now, the manufacturing of penicillin has become a scientific thing in itself. The manufacturing and the processing of this thing has become something else. And now, once we've determined, this is the DNA / bottom, we can create this thing as opposed to growing moldy oranges. We can do this.
Yeah.
So that becomes a thing. And so when people start saying, and money gets involved and things get involved, when people, especially in science, man, the pharmaceutical companies and big pharma has a way of when they don't want to hear that your methodology will mess up their bottom line, then they're going to try and shut that science down. Sometimes they try to shut that science down and discredit experts and or people to say, oh man, that dude's a quack. No, that dude ain't no quack. Like a prime example is that one brother that I'm trying to remember. He had a scientific experiment, and the pharmaceutical companies were like, nah, we don't. And so they were trying to, they did everything to discredit this brother. You know, they were discrediting him. They were calling him a angry black dude. He was a quack. And it's like, bro, nah, I'm a scientist. And that's what I do. And so Big Pharma has a way of making people change their whole, you can basically buy an expert, to go to court and say XYZ.
Right. Yeah.
So sometimes,
now, that's right there. It's a great point. And the only reason I say that, if you guys get the chance, and again, it's not pushing one side or the other. If you guys get the chance, I'll send it to you. You need to check out those 2 interviews, because what you just said is prevalent in that interview. And I think it was it was done well, because it wasn't like leaning here, leaning there. It was a lot of stuff that Buddy and I talk about that I'm like, that Buddy had shared with me. No, and I listen, I'm the first to be like, you know what? I didn't think about it that way. That Buddy shared with me, and the doctor said, and I was like, oh, okay, all right, I get it. You know what I mean? So it was great. But to move on, because we're running out of time. Definitely want to talk about checking on your friends. Check on your strong friends. Check on the people that say, I'm good, I got it. Check on them. Love on them. Hug on them. Chesley Kirst, Miss USA 2019. They've said now, she's, I'll say she's, fallen to her death. They're investigating now. Everything behind that. Just someone so vibrant, so alive, but also who felt that, she was 30 and the business, the industry was not going to respect, women getting older. A lawyer, an activist for mental health by sharing her own path to healthy, mental health. It's so sad. Then the young brother from Walking Dead, they just found him, self-inflicted gunshot wound.
Oh my God, I didn't hear that one.
In Atlanta. I think in DC he was something to the city. I don't know, say a councilman or something. Father, self-inflicted gunshot wound. Like this, every time I'm just scared to scroll. And of course we know about Regina and Ian Alexander Sr.'s son, Ian Alexander Jr. Yeah. This is I don't know. This pandemic coupled with, social media and Chesley's comment, I hope you find rest and peace being her last post. and her admitting herself that the trolls would get to her. You know, you can have 75 amazing comments, but it'd be that one comment. You know, I found myself, you know, it affected me. I'd have some great comments, or I do something that's really funny, and they're like, "Yeah, we ain't gonna forget that damn Michael Jackson movie." You know what I mean?
You know what?
But you know, but I used to honestly be hurt. But I used to honestly be hurt. I used to go like, man, like I'm only trying to provide for my family. What the hell? And I had to catch myself, you know. But that's what this has created. And I hate to go on a tangent. I want to close out, but we got to check on our friends, man.
Yeah,
we got to check on our friends. We got to reach out. We got to love each other, and we got to talk more. You know, that's why I always check on Buddy, because he's has a serious tantrum. Especially on the golf course, you know, I worry about him.
Yeah, you're right, and it's just check on, like you said, all of your friends. Especially, I always tell people to check on your industry friends, because a lot of people see entertainment, entertainers, people, correspondents. She was a reporter. Yes, she was an attorney as well. Mm-hmm. They think everything is so fun.
Yeah.
Look at you. It's fun. Yeah. Oh, that's so fun. I had a homeboy tell me he wanted to get his daughter into acting because it was so fun. Yeah. It looked so fun.
Yeah.
Not considering the pressure that people put on themselves and that people put on them to achieve constantly. Yeah. So, you know, check on all of your friends. Everybody's going through anything. But, you know, when it comes to like that entertainment side, people are just like you. They ain't. It ain't no different. The same pressure you got, they got it, but it's just in a different way. So, you know, prayers to her family. That's just tragic, man.
And the closing point for you, buddy?
Closing point. That the doctor I was talking about was Tyrone Hayes.
Okay.
And the reason why I'm bringing him up again is one of the things he was testing was atrazine, which is a chemical that they put into corn to make it grow and so forth and so on. And he's come to find out that it has huge medical
benefits.
No, detriments.
Detriments. Okay.
To people's health.
Okay.
I'm talking about from frogs actually changing their genders.
Yes, I remember.
You know, gender changes in frogs.
I remember him.
Mental health breakdowns. You know, all kinds of different. And I say that because this mental health thing is not just mental health on checking on people. It's a whole lot of other stuff. It's what we eat,
right? Yeah,
what we intake.
Right.
Kennelia, you said it. I have to block this. You got to stop. We've got to be more cognizant of what we're bringing into our space, and that includes your body.
Yeah,
you know, we got to really start thinking about what we do, because like a lot of times, like people don't realize. You get up in the morning, the first thing they do is grab their phone.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I stopped doing that.
Yeah,
I had to take my phone. I had put my phone in another room.
Right.
You know, people are like, buddy, why don't you answer the phone? Because it's not the first thing I want to do.
Right.
You know, I want to get up and meditate a minute, you know, and go, thank you, God, I'm up.
Yeah, you want to shave your back.
All of that.
You got to get it.
Sometimes, and sometimes it's, you know, putting somebody out.
Yeah.
Buddy, sometimes. Nobody out.
Sometimes.
And on that note. Buddy, you nobody out.
And on that note.
Hey, you don't know what I be doing.
Thank you guys for joining us for the Flex Zone All In Podcast. I'm Flex Alexander. You can find me Flex A for Real on Instagram, TikTok, Flex Alexander on Facebook, and we want you guys to just tune in, subscribe, hit that like button, share it, but most importantly, subscribe right there on the bottom. Okay, right there on the bottom. Subscribe. Buddy, where can they find you?
I am back on Instagram.
Oh
no! I'm back with a new account, The Real Buddy Lewis Jokes. That is the real Buddy Lewis Jokes. You can't hold a brother down. I'm Buddy Lewis Jokes on Facebook and Twitter. Please hit me up. I'm trying to get my people up. My followers a little low right now.
Okay, I'm gonna follow you back again.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
So follow me.
Kennelia?
So Kennelia, I'm gonna need you to have your little friends follow Brother Lewis.
My friends don't want you. You can find me.
That's why they get put out.
You can find me on social media at Kennelia, like Kenny and Ophelia. Also, Black News Podcast. It's available on all apps where podcasts can be heard. Check it out.
Thank you guys. We'll see you again right here. Flex Zone Podcast. All in. Appreciate you guys. Y'all be safe. Ghetto music.